Welcome to another day of reading of the book Surcharged with Divine Love, written by Sukmani Auntie and published by Unistar Books Private Limited. Chapter 26. Our Various Treatments. Throughout my time spent with Guruji, I have been treated many times by Guruji for various things. Some I knew about and some even before they manifested. Guruji has always looked after me like a little child, and each time any problem came up, I used to first call him and then think of visiting a doctor. 9 out of 10 times he would cure me himself as he knew I disliked visiting doctors. I've had palm leaves applied a zillion times, cured by his spoon that he called his stethoscope, and had treatments done with dough made of wheat flour. Many of my treatments were also done by taking mom and me on long drives with Guruji in the afternoons when he used to go for his shave. He would often say, "तू नवंबर born है ना? नवंबर वाले हमेशा बीमार रहंदे हन." You're November born. November born ones usually always keep getting sick. I don't know about others, but it was very true for me. I remember when Guruji was in Delhi, I started getting big painful boils on my body, one at a time. Each time one would subside, I would see signs of another developing. I ran to Delhi and told him about the boils, and for the first time, he just didn't pay any attention to my suffering. Everyone could see I was in a lot of agony, but Guruji would completely ignore me. Once, while traveling back from Delhi to Chandigarh, I had a boil on my stomach, which was so painful that I couldn't even sit in the car. While my mother was making arrangements for me to travel lying down on the back seat, Guruji sent someone to the parking lot with an ointment. गुरुजी ने दिया है और बोला है कि सुखमनी को बोलो पेट पे लगा ले, travel कर पाएगी. Guruji has sent it for Sukhmani. She is to apply it on her stomach and she will be able to travel. I did as he told me and my pain subsided enough for me to travel back home. I was very confused as to why Guruji wasn't talking to me directly about my problem, but understood that there must be some reason and thought it best to not ask. I developed a total of 12 boils, each more painful than the one before, and what was strange was the fact that Guruji had told mom that I am not to have any painkillers and should go through the pain. I suffered in silence and as asked by Guruji, endured the pain without having any painkillers. While my 12th boil was on its way to subsiding, Guruji called me to Delhi. For the first time in months, he spoke to me about my boils and asked me how I was feeling. I told him I was okay and he asked, "हुन इस वक्त कोई boil है? At this time, do you have any boil on your body?" I was so happy at the fact that Guruji was finally talking to me after months of ignoring me that I completely forgot about the boil that was still there and said, "Nahi Guruji." "No Guruji, I'm fine now." He looked at me for a few seconds and pressed the spot where my 12th boil was. I screamed in pain and realized my mistake. He suddenly got up and asked for tea to be made for him in a mug. He told me to ask the driver to get the car at the gate, and he carried his mug of tea and a newspaper with him and sat in the car. My mother and I were asked to accompany him. Mom sat with Guruji at the back seat while I sat in the front seat and was told to instruct the driver to just drive towards Gurgaon, now Gurugram. He drank half his tea and gave me the rest to drink. "आ ले, पी जा महाप्रसाद. आज तो बाद कोई boil नहीं होएगा. Here, drink this tea and you will not get another boil after this." I drank the last drop of it and mentally thanked Guruji for whatever it was that he had done for me through the boils. On reaching back to Empire Estate, he again called us into his room. He ordered more tea for us and told me, "सुखमनी, आज मैं तेरा बहुत बड़ा रोग कर देता, कल्याण हो गया. Today I have cut a major illness in you. You are now blessed." By making me suffer through the boils, he had cut a serious illness that I wasn't even aware of, nor had noticed it manifesting in my body. In 2005, I was stressed about certain issues and had insomnia. I had not slept for 3 nights and was feeling very unwell. Guruji called up my mother and asked us to immediately come to Delhi. On our way closer to Delhi, the driver switched on the radio and there was a program on depression. The speaker was giving key points to identify early signs of depression, and as she went about listing them, I mentally checkmarked all. I told my mother that I think I have depression. On reaching Empire Estate, Guruji immediately called my mom inside, and after a few minutes, I was asked to come in as well. As I entered, Guruji laughed and said, "क्यों फिर सुखमनी, depression है तेनू? So do you have depression?" And he continued to laugh at me. I looked towards my mother thinking she had said something to Guruji, but she hadn't. I told Guruji that as per the program on the radio, I think I do. He laughed some more and ordered mom to heat some oil for a massage. As she brought in the oil, he asked me to massage his head. "चल फिर depression दूर करिए तेरा. Come, let's deal with your depression." And then he laughed even more. I massaged his head for almost half an hour and was completely breathless. Finally, he got up and went in for a bath. After he came out, he threw his t-shirt and Nike shorts in my lap and said, "चल ले प्रसाद बन गया, पा लिया कर. Take these, they are blessed. Wear them sometimes." I laughed and said I was too fat to wear shorts and that I will keep them with me. That night he had made us stay with someone, and now I was worried if I'd be able to sleep at all. I'm someone who cannot sleep with the lights on or if there are people talking in the room. On that particular night, mom and her friend were busy chatting and the lights were on. I took Guruji's t-shirt and hugged it, and before I knew it, I was completely knocked off for 10 hours straight. The next morning, I woke up feeling completely fresh and active, and never again have I had any problems with my sleep. One day in Empire Estate, he asked me to knead some wheat dough and bring for him. As I handed the dough to him, he asked me to lie down. He applied the dough to my stomach and told me not to get up till he asked me to. Hours went by. Guruji got up and sat on his asan, and yet no word came from him. I was lying all alone on the floor of his room and thought he had forgotten all about me. I was wanting to use the washroom now, so was constantly cribbing to him to let me get up. Within minutes, my mother came into the room saying, "Guruji has told you to now get up." I was so relieved to see her. Next day, he again asked me to bring him some dough. As I entered the room with the dough, he told me, "वॉशरूम जाना है तो अभी जाके आ. कल की तरह मुझे तंग ना करी. कल इलाज अद्धा रह गया ते तेरे वॉशरूम के चक्कर में. If you want to use the washroom, please go now and don't bother me like you did yesterday. Because of you, the treatment was incomplete." I quickly told him to wait and ran to use the washroom. Again, the dough was applied to my stomach for a couple of hours and I didn't dare complain. Once when Rajdeep was hardly 3 years, he got chicken pox. Since his parents were away on a holiday, he was staying with us. When the doctor confirmed he had chicken pox, my biggest worry was my grandfather's health. The doctor told us that 99% chances are that we were all infected. My grandfather, mom, and I have never had chicken pox as a child, and so it was very worrying. We were told there were some preventive injections that one can take, so we got my grandfather take those, and three of us, mom, Saraswati, and myself, we rushed to Delhi. Guruji immediately called us into his room and asked us what was bothering us. We told Guruji that we had in fact come to bother him for something very small, and we told him about what the doctor had said. "हाँ, तुसी सारे infected हो." "Yes, you're all infected," he said. He ordered tea for all three of us and told us to press his hands. "Guruji, but we are infected. We don't want to touch you," I said. "Guruji ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ? ਚਲੋ ਦਬਾਓ ਹੱਥ." "Nothing can happen to Guruji. Come on, press my hands." We three pressed his hands and feet and had tea. After we finished our tea, he told us to go to the washroom. "ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤਿੰਨੋਂ ਹੁਣ ਬਾਰੀ-ਬਾਰੀ ਬਾਥਰੂਮ ਜਾਓ ਤੇ यूरिन ਦੇ थ्रू मैं सब infection ਕੱਢ ਦਿੱਤੀ. 3 of you now go to the washroom. Through your urine, I have made all the infection go out of your body." We did as we were told and we were infection free. He blessed my grandfather too, and none of us ever got chicken pox. Since I was always trying to shed the extra kilos, I decided to use the exercise bike in my room that was just sitting there for the past many years and was being used to hang clothes. I started noticing that I couldn't do more than 15 minutes on it and would get breathless. I never thought much about it, but this didn't escape Guruji's notice. He called us and instructed us to reach Delhi immediately. As we reached Delhi, he called us into his room. Guruji asked me to press his hands and asked me, "तू जदों साइकिलिंग कर दी है, साह चढ़दा है, किन्ने मिनट कर दी है? When you are on the bike, do you get breathless? How many minutes can you stay on the bike?" हाँ जी गुरुजी, मैं 15 मिनट ही कर सकती हूँ और फिर मुझे सांस चढ़ता है. At that time, he kept quiet and told us to stay another day with him. At night, I saw Guruji come in my telepathy and he puts his hand into my body next to my heart and pulls out something. He shows it to me, smiles, and tells me this is what was making you breathless and now I have cured you. Ever since that day, I was able to do 45 minutes on the bike without even a sign of breathlessness. In 2010, I was simultaneously designing 5 projects, each nothing less than 10 acres, and all of them had a deadline. I was working 12 hours on the computer and ended up with severe neck pain and dizziness. I rested for a few days, hoping the pain would subside, but with no relief. I rang up my partner in Hyderabad and he said we'd probably have to let go of the projects as we need to submit them before a certain date. That night, I prayed to Guruji to help me as I needed to complete all my projects. Guruji comes to me in telepathy and asks me, "Ki ho gaya gardan nu? What's wrong with your neck?" I tell him that it hurts and that I'm feeling dizzy and nauseous. He lifts his hand up and out of thin air he produces a spoon, his stethoscope. He puts it on my neck and tells me, "तेरी एक हड्डी हिली हुई है, ले मैं ठीक कर देती. Your one bone in the neck is slightly displaced. Now I have corrected it." I thank him and as I'm about to bend and touch his feet, he tells me, "Bend na kar, khade khade matha tek le. Don't bend, keep standing and touch my feet." He sits on a high table and lifts his feet up for me to touch. I touch his feet and walk out of the room. Just then I woke up. I tried moving my neck from left to right and felt no pain. I got up and realized I wasn't dizzy at all. Guruji had come and cured me via telepathy. I was able to complete all my drawings on time. A lot of times he still comes and cures us. Once my mother was having gastric issues and Guruji comes to me in telepathy and tells me, "तेरे फ्रिज विच एक कटोरी तोरी दी सब्जी पई है, ओ मां नू खिला दे, ठीक हो जाओगी. There is a bowl of vegetable in your fridge. Make your mother eat it and she will be all right." I wasn't aware of any such bowl of vegetable in the fridge, but when I looked it was there. I made mom eat it and she was perfectly fine. Rajdeep had just moved to Vancouver, Canada, when he got COVID. Being alone, he was a bit worried and prayed to Guruji to help him. That night, Guruji came into his telepathy and told him not to worry and that everything will be fine. Sure enough, Rajdeep recovered within just a few days. Pearl was in London when Guruji went to her in telepathy and told her she has a problem in her stomach that he has come to cure. He tells her that he will put his hand inside her stomach and pull the illness out, and that it may hurt a bit and she shouldn't panic. He pulls out whatever he saw was yet to manifest and blessed her with good health. I don't think we can ever come close to thanking him for looking after us every step of the way. ਤੁਸੀਂ इंसान गुरु तो थैंक यू कर ही नहीं सकते. अगर अपने चम दी मेरे लिए जुतियां भी बना दो तो कम है. अपना एक एक कतरा खून भी दे दो तो भी कम है. असी महापुरुषां ने थोड़ा इन्ना कल्याण किता है. You human beings can never thank me enough. Even if you make shoes for me from your skin and give me every drop of your blood, even then you can never thank a Mahapurush enough. That is how much I have blessed you. This is so true in my case. I cannot thank him enough. And I bow my head in gratitude for showering so many blessings on an undeserved person like me. Tvamev mata ch pita tvamev, tvamev bandhush sakha tvamev, tvamev vidya dravinam tvamev, tvamev tvamev sarvam mam dev dev. You are my mother, father, relative, and friend. You're all wisdom and wealth. You're indeed my all. Chapter 27. Theft at our house in Sangrur. My grandfather had another house in Sangrur that he visited occasionally. All of our luggage was packed in cartons and kept in that house. Since my dad moved around a lot because of his job, Mom had a habit of marking all her cartons and labeling them as kitchen, cut glass, silver, etc. It just made it easier for her to unpack. One morning, we got a phone call from a neighbor in Sangrur that our house had been broken into. My grandfather left immediately for Sangrur to take stock of the situation, while Mom and I stayed back as we were on Guruji's seva. We were obviously very upset and disturbed by the news, but we didn't say anything to Guruji and went about doing our chores at the mandir. Guruji called my mother into his room and asked her, "Sangrur kar vich chori ho gayi hai? Has there been a theft in the Sangrur house?" "Hanji Guruji, Daddy gaye hain dekhne." "Yes Guruji, Daddy has gone to have a look," replied Mom, feeling almost certain the thieves must have taken all the silver as all cartons were labelled. "Fikr na karo, मैं उसनू अन्ना कर दिता, उसनू कुछ भी नहीं दिखिया." "Don't worry, I blinded him and he could not see anything," Guruji reassured her. My mother thanked Guruji and the day went by as usual. My grandfather called up a few hours later saying that the thief broke into the house from the kitchen window, but to his surprise he hadn't taken anything. All he did was make a mess of things in the house, maybe tried on some shoes and spread them on the bed, but nothing was stolen. Mom told my grandfather about what Guruji had said, and he agreed that the thief must have been blinded because not even a sewing needle was stolen from the house. After setting things in order at Sangrur, my grandfather started on his journey back to Chandigarh. On Guruji's instructions, my grandfather had always kept an ambassador car. The color and the color of the interiors were all decided by Guruji. On the way back, the car had a head-on collision with a fast-moving truck, and the side my grandfather was sitting on had the most impact. The impact was so great that the metal of the car was completely ripped off. With Guruji's grace, my grandfather as well as the driver were both safe. Mom and I were in seva and had no way of knowing what had happened. Guruji again called my mother to his asan and told her, "Daddy ਦਾ ਰਸਤੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਕਸੀਡੈਂਟ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ, ਫਿਕਰ ਨਾ ਕਰੋ, ਅਸੀਂ ਖੁਦ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਬੈਠ ਗਏ ਸੀ ਕਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ, ਕੁਝ ਹੋਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੱਤਾ, ਮੈਂ ਸਭ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਲਿਆ." "Sukhi, your father had an accident on the way, but don't worry, I went and sat in the car myself and didn't let any harm come to him. I have taken care of everything." My mother fell at Guruji's feet and thanked him for his blessings. At night, when my grandfather reached home, we were aghast to see the condition of the car. One couldn't imagine that no one was hurt by looking at the car, leave alone the fact that the car was in a condition to be driven back to Chandigarh. It is so true that the one who is protected by his Guru can never come to any harm. My Guru's light surrounds me and my family. His love and power protects us, and he himself watches over us. What more can one ask for? Chapter 28. Langar. Langar chalai gurshabad, har tot na aave katiye. The dining hall of the Guru's word is open. Its supplies never run short. Langar is the divine food served at religious places, something like a community meal. Langar at Guruji's temple was given a lot of importance, and no one was allowed to go without eating it. The meals served at Guruji's temple were so simple, yet so delicious that everyone who tasted it could not stop raving about it. His blessings made the difference between the food served at his temple and the food cooked at home. Guruji insisted on making people sit together in small groups and eat out of the same thali, a big plate. This was a sign of equality. Every individual who came to Guruji was treated equal, whether he was an officer or a villager. No one was ever divided according to religion, caste, or creed. In Jalandhar, where the Sangat was less, Guruji would himself make small groups during langar time, and he only decided who would sit where. Guruji would then serve the chapatis himself. Some of us would get 3 to 4 chapatis and we would eat them all and still not feel any discomfort. I remember a day in Jalandhar when one of Guruji's disciples distributing langar told Guruji that the dal, lentil, may fall short as there were a lot of people that day. Guruji very calmly ordered that disciple to cover the utensil containing the dal with a cloth. दाल दे डोंगे ते कपड़ा पा दियो और पाई चलो, कपड़ा चुक के देखना मत, दाल सबनू पूरी हो जाओगी. Meaning, cover the dal utensil with a cloth and don't lift the cloth to see. Continue serving from it and it will be enough for all. Sure enough, the dal was served to all and did not finish. A lady visited Guruji's temple for the first time. She had an ailment that Guruji pointed out and she agreed, "Yes, Guruji, I have been suffering from it for a long time." Langar kha ke ja, meaning have langar and then go, Guruji ordered her. During langar, Guruji gave her 3 chapatis to eat. She ate 2 and kept the third in her purse, thinking she would go home and eat it since she was already feeling quite full and had to travel. The next time she visited the temple, Guruji asked her, "Ki haal hai auntie? Bimari dur hui ki nahi?" Meaning, how are you feeling now? Has your problem disappeared? "Guruji, I'm much better but still about 20% of it is left," she replied. "ਉਹ ਇਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਤੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਰੋਟੀ ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਦੀ ਪਰਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਲੈ ਗਈ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਪਤਾ ਚੱਲਣਾ ਹੈ, ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਕੁਝ ਖਾਣ ਨੂੰ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਮੰਦਿਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਖਾਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, ਇੱਥੇ ਦਵਾਈ ਤੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਮਿਠਾਈ." "That is because you smuggled a chapati out of my temple thinking you will eat it later and Guruji will not come to know. When I give you something to eat, it is to be consumed in the temple itself. Once it goes out, it's ordinary food." The langar served at Guruji's temple was blessed and charged by his powers. It was so blessed that many people got cured just by eating langar. The langar was always vegetarian and made by only those who Guruji instructed. Many times, spicy chutney would be served along with the langar, and Guruji would announce that people suffering from ulcers must eat the chutney as it would cure them. During the initial days when we met Guruji, spoons were not allowed and the curries were to be finished with the chapatis. Many times I would try to get a spoon and each time Guruji would catch me by my hand and take me back to my plate. "Spoons not allowed," he would say and smile at our incompetence. If you had curry left on your plate, you had to eat another chapati. It was as simple as that. In Chandigarh, thankfully the spoon finally showed its presence. In Delhi, Guruji started giving us langar seva. Each time we went to Delhi, he would say, "Chal sannyasi mandir mein," which meant we were to partake in the making of the langar. My sister, mother and I would reach the Chhatapur temple in the morning where the langar was prepared for the night. The preparation of the langar was an enjoyable experience and we all thank Guruji for considering us worthy enough to prepare langar for his Sangat. I had heard that each chapati that was made in the langar had an Om or an Omkar or a swastik sign on it, but had never believed it. One day I sat down to make a few chapatis and I saw that each and every chapati had a sign. I picked up chapatis at random and could not find even one that did not have those signs. One day a lady requested Guruji to allow her to make langar, to which he said, "Auntie, ਤੈਨੂੰ ਹਲੇ 25 ਸਾਲ ਹੋਰ ਲੱਗਣਗੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਲੰਗਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ, ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਮੇਰੇ ਲੰਗਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ." It will take you another 25 years to be ready to take on this seva. Not all are prepared, not all are allowed to prepare langar. Since we used to prepare the langar, we were aware of the number of chapatis made and could roughly guess the number of sangat that had visited Guruji on that particular day. One day after langar was served, Guruji sat down next to me and said that a certain number of people had visited the temple to eat langar. The number was much higher than the chapatis we had made that day, and my mind made some foolish calculations. That's not possible, Guruji. We didn't have that many chapatis. The moment I uttered these words, I realized I had made the mistake of doubting my Guru. I quickly apologized and kept quiet. ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਸਿਰਫ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਲੰਗਰ ਖਾ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੋ? ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਪਤਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੌਣ-ਕੌਣ ਲੰਗਰ ਖਾ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ? ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲੋਕ ਤਾਂ ਲੰਗਰ ਦੀ ਕੀਮਤ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹੋ। ਉੱਤੇ ਤਾਂ ਰਿਸ਼ੀ ਮੁਨੀ ਤਰਸਦੇ ਹਨ ਇਸ ਲੰਗਰ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਨਿਵਾਲਾ ਖਾਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਮੇਰੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਲੰਗਰ ਛਕ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ। ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਇੰਨੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਲੰਗਰ ਛਕਿਆ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹਾਂ। What do you know? You think it's just you people who come and eat langar here? You don't know who all come and eat langar with you. You people don't know the value of langar, whereas rishis and sadhus in the astral world feel blessed to come and eat this langar. When I say so many people ate langar today, I count them in as well. Many times after that, Guruji would smile at me and quietly tell me the number of people for langar on that particular day, and I never indulged in calculations again. Not that I was good at them to begin with, and I never doubted my Guru again. Regarding preparations of food at home, Guruji always insisted that the wife must cook food with her own hands. औरत ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੱਥ ਨਾਲ ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਣਾ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। Guruji would always eat his food after feeding his Sangat. Not only his Sangat, he made sure to feed all the drivers and people at the gate before he sat down to eat. No one ever returned without being fed. जय गुरुजी। आज की रीडिंग बस यहीं तक। कल फिर अगले चैप्टर से शुरू करेंगे। उम्मीद करती हूँ आप सबको बहुत अच्छा लगा। सुखमनी आंटी का भी फिर से शुक्राना अपनी इतने ब्यूटीफुल एक्सपीरियंसेस को हमारे साथ शेयर करने के लिए। जय गुरुजी।